There was a man who trembled at the thought of losing the presence of God. A man who believed the greatest tragedy in the church was not persecution, but God quietly leaving while nobody noticed. His name was A.W. Tozer, and decades before modern Christianity became consumed with fame, performance, and comfort, he warned that something sacred was dying. Not with anger, not with politics, but with tears. This is the story of the preacher who walked away from popularity to pursue the presence of God. The man whose words still shake Christians generations later, and the haunting reason many believe. A.W. Tozer was far ahead of his time. April 21st, 1897. Hidden among the hills of western Pennsylvania, a baby boy was born into poverty. No one looking at the small Tozer family could have predicted greatness. There were no signs of fame, no prophecy spoken over his crib, no wealthy church waiting to train him. Just hardship, simple living, and survival. As a young boy, Tozer worked hard with his hands long before he would ever preach with his voice. The world he grew up in was rough and ordinary, but hidden inside him was a hunger he himself could not explain. A hunger not for success, not for applause, but for something eternal. Years later, that hunger would become the fire that consumed his entire life. Tozer did not come to God through Bible school. He did not rise through religious connections. In fact, he had no formal theological education at all. Everything changed one evening while walking home from work. As he passed a small street meeting, he heard a preacher cry out, "If you don't know how to be saved, just call on God." Simple words, but heaven attached itself to that moment. That night, young Tozer climbed into the attic of his home. Alone, no choir, no audience, no dramatic music. Just a desperate young man kneeling in the dark. And there, in silence, A.W. Tozer surrendered his life to God. Nobody outside the house knew history had just shifted. But the young man who walked into that attic would not be the same man who walked out. Most Christians are satisfied after conversion. Tozer was not. Salvation only awakened something terrifying inside him. An obsession, a longing, a relentless pursuit of God. While others chased careers, titles, and recognition, Tozer chased the presence of God like a dying man searching for water. And this is what made him different. He did not merely believe in God. He wanted to know Him deeply, personally, completely. Friends and family would later describe how he disappeared into places of prayer for hours at a time, not out of religious duty, but because something inside him burned for more holiness, more truth, more of God. Sometimes he would pray so intensely that the outside world seemed to disappear. He read endlessly: history, theology, Christian classics, sermons. He taught himself what seminaries could not. And slowly, quietly, the uneducated factory worker became one of the most spiritually respected voices in America. Not because of charisma, not because of branding, but because people could feel that he had been with God. As Tozer's influence grew, churches expected him to become softer, more polished, more comfortable. But that never happened. If anything, he became more dangerous. Because Tozer refused to flatter Christianity, he saw something disturbing happening inside the modern church. People still gathered, songs were still sung, sermons were still preached, But something holy was disappearing: the fear of God. And Tozer could not stay silent. Week after week, he stood before congregations and warned them that it was possible to have religion without God, music without worship, crowds without repentance, church without holiness. His words cut deep because they felt true, and many people did not like him for it. Some called him too intense, too radical, too heavenly minded. But others listened with tears in their eyes, because deep down they knew he was right. There is a price people pay when they refuse compromise, and Tozer paid it. The deeper he pursued God, the more isolated he became from shallow Christianity. He did not fit comfortably into celebrity culture. He avoided luxury, avoided self-promotion, avoided the spotlight. While many preachers built platforms, Tozer built altars. Even after becoming widely known, he continued living simply, at times painfully simply, because to him, intimacy with God mattered more than comfort. And perhaps that is why his words carried such unusual weight. He lived them. Every sentence, every warning, every conviction. He was not performing spirituality. He was consumed by it. Then came the writings. And suddenly, Tozer's voice began reaching beyond church walls, especially through one book, The Pursuit of God. It was not written like ordinary theology. It felt alive, like the cry of a man desperate for heaven. Readers around the world felt something while reading his words: conviction, hunger, longing. Many wept while reading. Others said the book changed their spiritual lives forever. Then came another masterpiece, The Knowledge of the Holy, a book that challenged believers to rethink who God truly is. Not a casual God, not a cultural God, but a holy, majestic, terrifyingly glorious God. Even decades later, these books still awaken people, because truth does not expire. Years passed. The world changed. Technology exploded. Celebrity culture entered the church. Entertainment replaced reverence in many places. And suddenly, Tozer's warnings no longer sounded extreme. They sounded prophetic. The very things he feared, many Christians now openly struggle with. A church distracted, a generation spiritually numb, faith becoming performance instead of surrender. And today, millions still quote Tozer because his words feel less like history and more like a mirror. On May 12, 1963, A.W. Tozer's earthly journey came to an end. But something unusual happened after his death. His voice grew louder. Because while many famous names faded away, his words kept traveling across generations, into churches, into bedrooms, into prayer closets, into the hearts of believers desperate for something real. Perhaps because Tozer reminded people of something modern life tries to make us forget, that the greatest thing a human being can pursue is not success, not fame, not influence, but God Himself. And maybe that is why his story still lingers in the hearts of millions. Because deep inside, people are still searching for what A.W. Tozer spent his entire life chasing: the presence of God. And somewhere beyond the noise of this world, the old preacher's warning still echoes. It is possible to be religious and still miss God. And for those willing to listen, his voice still calls believers higher. The world is getting louder, but the voices calling people back to holiness are becoming fewer. So if you believe messages like this still matter, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and share this documentary with others. You never know who might be spiritually awakened by hearing this story.